22nd, 2024. City Council meeting to order. Abby, please call the roll.
Mayor Walby?
Here.
Councilmember Burgess?
Here.
Councilmember Karen?
Here.
Councilmember Frederick?
Present.
Councilmember Rubello?
Present.
Councilmember Rusi?
Here.
And Councilmember Vitale.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Please rise for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 2 is proclamations and presentations. We do have a, come on up, we have a little presentation, right, from our state rep, Veronica Paez. So welcome, State Rep Paez. We appreciate that. I know she's going to give us a little overview of what maybe happened in 2023 and what she's looking forward to in 2024. So
correct. Just
again, thank you for coming.
No, thank you for allowing me to be here. I appreciate your time. I'm just going to give almost just a quick bullet point thing of what's legislation that's been signed into law in the past year, a little bit of what I'm working on, and a couple of quick updates. So currently, I'm working on several bills, consulting our research staff and meeting with stakeholders. Proposed legislation that I'm working on includes issues for military veterans, definition of the word veteran, some public library policy, licensing and apprenticeships. I'm working with a constituent here in St. Clair Shores on that. Worker pay transparency and fringe benefits, and environmental law. I'm also part of a proposed bill package with colleagues addressing short-term rentals and domestic violence. This year I've collaborated with constituents on legislation pertaining to professional apprenticeships, agricultural water quality, cottage food law, and again with the veterans. If you check my House of Representatives website at reppaiz, reppaiz.com, you can find out which bills I have sponsored, worked with stakeholders on, and which I have co-sponsored, supported. If you've ever thought there should be a law about something, I'm the person to talk with, because that's how I get my ideas. They're not all things that just go off in a light bulb in my head. I like talking with people and finding out what needs, what they would like to happen. So, real quick, last year, 2023, we repealed the retirement tax, equalizing the exemption on both public and private pensions beginning in 2024, and with a 4-year phase-in. It's expected that this will affect about 500,000 retirees who will save about $1,000 annually each. You should be getting something in the mail with your W-2 forms, which will tell you how to follow up or where you can go to for more information about that, along with the earned income tax credit. We raised that from 6% to 30% of the federal tax level. It's retroactive to 2022, so in mid-February, about 700,000 families throughout the state who are eligible for this credit will receive a tax rebate check averaging about $500. Worker freedoms, we've restored collective bargaining to what it was pre-2012, I believe. We've expanded the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act to include LGBTQ+. We've repealed the 1931 Criminal Abortion Penal Code. Our health care policy now includes that insurance can no longer be denied to people with pre-existing conditions. That's a huge one. There are now lead protections for children. Schools and child care facilities will be required to conduct routine water sampling and testing, and physicians will be required to test children ages 1 through 4 for lead poisoning when they have their regular office visit with a physician. As you probably already know, there are no charge breakfasts and lunches for public school kids, kindergarten through 12th grade. We also passed some gun safety legislation with safe storage and preventing anybody who's convicted of domestic violence from owning and purchasing guns for about 8 years. There are no more sales and use taxes for purchases of gun safety devices. We've banned child marriage under the under the age of 18. Between 2000 and 2021, there were about 5,400 child marriages in Michigan, and 95% between a child, a minor, and an adult. As Councilman Rubello knows, we passed Teddy's Law, thanks to your Senator Hertel. There's a hands-free driving law now where you can no longer hold your cell phone even at a stop sign or stoplight. The election laws include more days to vote at the polls, 9 days ahead. I know that's of some great concern to city clerks right now, so I appreciate their patience on this. Presidential primary has been moved up to February 27th. Also, we passed a law requiring elected officials. Right now, it's just your state representatives and your state senators there's a financial disclosure act. So you'll be able to check in on us later this year and find out how really poor we are. And we have to report anything over $1,000 in assets and liabilities over $10,000. We do not have to report lobbyist gifts. Lobbyists do report those, though, but I keep a running spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet in my office. If you ever want to know something, call up my office and we'll send it to you. I can tell you right now it's filled with soft drinks, snacks, those little squeezy things for your hands, tote bags, and some coasters, and a 2-pound bag of apples we got last year. Minimum wage has increased to $10.33, which is about a $500 annual increase. A few of the stakeholders, if you will, or organizations I've met with in the past year include the Detroit District Dental Society, Detroit firefighters and firefighter union reps from Harper Woods and St. Clair Shores, and the Michigan Association of Fire Chiefs, and just this week with the MPPFU. I've met with Citizens for Prison Reform, Michigan Association for Justice, Macomb County Department of Public Works, Commissioner Candace Miller, Senator Hertel and I had met with her to get funding for the $5 million pipe that's going along Jefferson. I've met with the Michigan Nurses Association, Michigan Council of Nurse Practitioners, Michigan Educational Association, the Michigan Sierra Club, Michigan Audiology Coalition, Michigan Library Association, multiple times, the People's Water Board Coalition, and University of Michigan Administration and Wayne State University's new president. Attended some school board meetings, some city council meetings in Harper Woods. I think this is my second here during my term. And I've toured an ethanol plant and trade union facilities, and this morning I had a tour of the Macomb Facility Prison out on 26th Mile, which was really fascinating to me. I learned a lot, and everything is not how it seems, and Orange is the New Black and Shawshank Redemption. So it was very interesting. So that's it real briefly. You know how to contact me. I can pass out cards again. I'm in Lansing on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays. Usually spend Tuesdays and Wednesday nights there. State of the Union is this Wednesday, so I'll be there all day. There'll be different programs to go through. I'm sorry, you have a question, Mr. Robello?
Question, Mr. Rubello?
You also visit us locally. I don't know if you've mentioned that. At the senior
Here?
center.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Yeah, I'm at the senior center the first Fridays of every month from 10 a.m. till 11, usually 11:30 or sometimes noon. I do that. I used to have them at the library here for the council meetings, but then they started construction in one of the rooms there where I'd been having the meetings. So I no longer do that. I'm looking for another venue around here. If you want to suggest one to me, that would be great. Yeah, thank you
Great.
for reminding me.
Mr. Carey?
Thank you. At the beginning, you were talking about you're working on a work group regarding short-term rentals. And I don't know if you're aware, but within the last 5-6 years, our rental ordinance was actually challenged on short-term rentals because we don't allow them. And that actually went all the way up to the Supreme Court saying that, yep, we are allowed to regulate that and we are allowed to ban them.
Yeah.
And that, so it's kind of wondering, since
What is it?
The work group, is it about clarifying to make sure it's very clear that localities can regulate, or is it to override localities regulating?
So Representative Joey Andrews, this is his bill package. He's invited me to be a part of it. I haven't worked with him on it. I believe he wants clarifications. I know he feels very strongly about using hotels rather than like Airbnbs or Vrbo or whatever. I was on Harperwood City Council for almost 8 years. So this was a huge thing in our city and very close to my heart. I remember texting my state rep at about 2 a.m. On the House floor, telling her, don't vote for it, don't vote for it. She voted for it. I like Airbnbs. I like to stay at them, but I think I'm very much for municipal autonomy. And I think cities should be able to regulate them, how they see fit and how it's best for their city. I know they tweaked some ordinances in Harper Woods. I believe we were trying to figure out how the distance they could be or how many,
Like
I think they
a
could just be
percent
like
that
if
would be
you were
allowed and
living
how
in the
far apart They
home.
would be, yeah.
Right, if you were living in the home, you could have someone there. I forget exactly how it was tweaked since
Okay.
then. But, no, I got your back on this.
All right, thank you.
And if you ever want to know, I can always get back to you more specific about that package of bills.
Okay,
Okay,
appreciate that.
all right.
I think we get one more. Mr. Vitale.
Yeah, actually, John more or less asked almost exactly what I was going to ask to start with. So I guess at this point, I'm just going to echo that sentiment to please preserve local control. I'm not necessarily against Airbnbs either. I think there's actually ways that they could be made to work in the city. We've kind of talked around some ways to maybe regulate it. And I think cities should be allowed to put forth their own local control on this. There's a lot of things that the state has done that, and I'll give you, for example, the fireworks law,
was a
which
big one, too.
might be great if you're on a 2-acre piece of property, but when you're 4 feet off your neighbor's window, the same law doesn't work as well. So obviously, some things work in some communities and some things work in others, and I could probably say the same thing about the medical marijuana, where we actually regulate the smell of bakeries and some other things, yet we can't touch a house that has a medical marijuana grow.
Yeah.
So there's definitely been some lacking in a lot of state legislation, and if you're a champion for local control, I applaud you for that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you,
Thank
thank you. You brought up marijuana, and actually, I am working on something with, for that, but that is for cautionary labeling for recreational marijuana.
If we can do something to kind of keep the smell out of the neighborhoods, that would be great.
That would be great, yes. Okay.
State Rep Pius, thank you for coming. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good 2024, and then
you.
we'll
Same
see you
to
at the
you.
end of the year, early next year. If you, we're glad to have you. Thank you. Yeah. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 3 is audience participation. Abby, do we have any?
No, we do not.
So item 4 is the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. 4A is the public hearing for the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. So I will open the public hearing. Anyone who would like to speak regarding the Parks and Recreation Master Plan? Seeing no one who wants to speak regarding that, I will offer it one more time before I close the public hearing. I will close the public hearing for the Parks and Rec Master Plan and go on to item 4B is recommendation of approval of the resolution for the 2024 through 2028 Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Thank you, Mr. Spinizzola, Parks and Rec Director, and Liz Cotto, the City Planner.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Going to have to excuse me, my sinuses are not cooperating tonight. Here tonight to request your approval for the adoption of the 2024 to 2028 Parks and Recreation Master Plan. The plan must be approved and uploaded to the DNR website by February 1st for us to formally apply for grants in 2024. This is the main reason we must put a plan like this together. Also, it helps provide the department and community with a roadmap for the future. The plan consists of long and short-term goals, some of which are aspirational. However, it is necessary to include those items in the event that a grant funding source becomes available. Thank you all for reviewing and putting your time into this, and thank you to Liz and Denise for some guidance along the way. And then, any questions?
And before we go, I know that, Mr. Lent, you met with a number of members here.
I did, and as to echo what Rob had stated, I do appreciate the council coming in, meeting with the Recreation Committee as well as the Planning Committee and the consultant, and getting all of our thoughts and information in. So I do commend each one of the, I think every single member of the council actually did reach out and/or had met, so thank you.
Right, and so I point that out only because it's a big packet here, and many times the work, you don't see the work right here, but the work has been done, because many of these meetings, and for these members here, take a significant amount of time, as I was indicated earlier. Ms. Rusi.
Thank you. Yeah, I was one of the council members who had a lot of concerns. I think that at pretty much every page in the first draft we received, I marked up multiple things in red pen with my concerns, and I think our meeting was probably 2 hours, hour and 45 minutes, as we went literally page by page by page of this entire document, going over some of those. I know John had a similarly long one the week or two prior, and I'm sure other people had them too, so.
They did.
I did review the updated copy. I do appreciate seeing a lot of the stylistic changes incorporated, the picture upgrades. It definitely looks like a lot better presentation, a lot more accurate to some of the issues, as we spent a lot of time talking about. There were mistakes made, omissions, subtractions, additions in some regards of the inventory going through our park system and the regional park system. And you're going through these things, and I think one of them, for Zard Park, which are those 2 benches in front of Mastro's on Jefferson, that's a park. That stated in the inventory had a lakefront view, and you'd have to have very good eyesight and be able to see through buildings to see the lake from those 2 benches. So I appreciate that was cleared up. Is anyone from Spalding to Decker here tonight?
No.
See, I'm surprised, because I would have thought, being here for the presentation of their master plan that they consulted in, would have been part of the contract we had with them, because they're getting paid a lot of money for their work on this. So I'm kind of surprised no one showed up to help present this, given they were involved in a lot of the work going into this document.
I believe that there are 6 public meetings that they're to be attending as part of the Parks and Rec and regular master plan approval. And so we didn't have them as part of this one. They've attended 3 of 3 to date. So we have 3 meetings left for them. One of them is going to be held at the library, and then the other 2 would be to be determined with the rest of the master plan.
I'm just surprised that, being here for us passing it isn't part of the contract. But the hour at the library with the pizza is, okay. How was the master plan put out for public view? I know we had public comments set opportunity just a few minutes ago. No one came. How was the public able to view this plan, either the previous version that was all marked up and changed, or this current version that we only received in our packets on Friday? So we only received the new one on Friday. How was this put forward for the public to have their input as to the final plan?
So the plan that the original plan that was received in December by you guys was available at the Parks and Rec Department as well as online. That version, actually it was prior to that, there was one version that was available for more or less the month of November. And then it's still available online, and it's probably still available at Parks and Rec now. And then this version is on the website just with the packet, the way that you all received it.
I think for the citywide master plan, not just, this is just the parks, we still are working on the citywide one, and that's where we're still having some public meetings. I think we need to maybe put this out a little bit more, put this link on Facebook, on the city website, really advertise this, because not having any comments at this point, and in terms of the in-person meeting at the senior center back on August 1st, I think there was only, 20 people who showed up. And I think, getting some more varied public input in this would be, in the next one for the entire city would be desirable. I know we did the survey, but the survey was only online for like a month because we had some issues with some of the questions and the process of it. But we're citing to the survey and here when we didn't have it out for the public, I think as long as we wanted to, we still got 800 and some comments, which was good, but it was also a little bit shorter of a period than we were initially hoping to have that available. So I think in terms of public input, I mean, it's always hard to get people interested, I guess, but maybe from the city side, we could take advantage, maybe some more of the avenues we have for this next one. And also have the first copy we received not have to be marked up so many times with things like St. Frazard Park has a waterfront view, kiting out the dog park, there's a lot of mistakes in here, not acknowledging we have in the inventory, a whole line of things, concerts with all our parks. We say, we have concerts at Wabi Park. We didn't put that at Veterans. We did acknowledge the volleyball court that we later mentioned at Blossomy. There's just a lot of weird internal inconsistencies and omissions and sometimes just statements that just weren't factual in there that I at least picked up on, but I know other people did too. But to have this as like, here's your final draft almost, that I spent a lot of time on this, correcting a lot of things that should not have been given to me in the state and put out to the public in the state because it looks like we don't know what we're talking about. And luckily there fits in this new version. That's part of the reason why we took this off the initial agenda. It was supposed to be at the last meeting, was because you didn't want me going through and you didn't want John going through. I guess John wasn't there, but at the last meeting, but it would have been a very long meeting going through all the changes that needed to be made. And I'm hoping the QC process is a little bit more present in the next one we get for the citywide master plan, because that one is a lot broader than one department. And there's a lot more room for red penning if there necessarily has to be. And I really don't want to spend that much time on it, that I have to spend this saying Frazard Park doesn't have a waterfront view, and we do have a dog park, and we have this, and we have this, and we have this. And it was very disappointing, the initial copy. That said, this copy, I went through it, much better. It's in a much more complete state. So I do appreciate the time that was spent afterwards, and I just wish it had to be spent. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Karen.
Thank you. We've already gone through offline all the updates that were needed, and I appreciate them all getting done. And one of the things I did ask to have added that I did see in there is that for each of the inventory of the parks, we got a page dedicated to each park, because we made several improvements from north to south in the city in the parks and that. And so I'd asked, hey, designate hey, when this playground was added, when was it added? When the, beach house was added, when was it added? When was the pier added? Make sure those dates are in there more for historical reasons, but also to see if, like, in the last 5 years of all the improvements that have been made in Parks and Rec. Over that time, between all the playgrounds, buildings, renovations, senior center, pier opening up, all the, new pavilions at Veterans Memorial, from north to south, we had tons of improvements that went in. So I just kind of wanted to make sure it's captured. I appreciate getting all that information in there. And I do want to touch on as well, Rob, you use the word aspirational, in terms of what's in here. Simplify, say a wish list, pretty much, right? Everything that's in here, this is not everything we're ever going to be able to do in 5 years, but it is good for each of the supervisors and managers within Parks and Rec to kind of, where they went through their facility and basically said, hey, here are the things to where it's going to require some type of capital or some major improvement in the future. I'll pick on Jason a bit with the pool. I think he literally went through everything in the pool and the marinas, anything that could need to be replaced in the 10 years, it's on the list. Now, we're never going to ask for grant money for that because that would ruin our resident-only status that we want to maintain. But it's good that he did that, and we have a good idea of, hey, what is he thinking for the long-term planning? And that's really what this document provides in that. And as well as the ones where we would have grant money that could be eligible for the non-lakefront parks. I think we've got a good idea of things that we could go after, and things that we've already applied for, and we'll just kind of keep applying until we can kind of get some traction on. But I think in the end, we've got a good list, we've got a good document here after all the inputs that came in. So appreciate pulling it all together in the last few weeks. But I would share Councilwoman Rusi's comments regarding the initial draft, and I think I'll chalk that up to of people kind of get used to of, well, I can just go find it on the internet, I can go grab this. It's like, that doesn't add to the quality in that. So I won't get into specific examples, but I kind of think that's what happened. And so when we get into the master plan for the whole city, which is largely about zoning, we'll work to avoid that with them going into the next round here. So, but appreciate all the hard work and all the edits for the last few weeks that the team did. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rubello.
Thank you, Mayor. Yep, been through this. Me and Rod had a pretty lengthy conversation on this, and had a chance to speak with Liz for about an hour or so. Impressed with, everyone needs the community feedback, which, in this case, you do your best you can with this stuff. You present it, and if they show up, they show up. And it's always great to have community feedback. Basically, this is being done as a roadmap, okay? It's not, this isn't always written in stone, but it's a roadmap. We need to do these types of things in order to get, plans like this, master plans, go hand in hand with grants, correct, Rob?
That's correct.
I mean, this is a big thing here. So these need to be done. And our deadline to get everything in, you have to upload by February 1?
Yes.
Is that what it is? Okay. Because these are really interesting types of things. I love doing these with the city. Thanks for the Parks and Rec and the involvement with, the city council here did some stuff, Parks and Rec Commission. So the Parks and Rec Department. So I think we got a good basis for what we're looking for. Impressed that you had, for this vision of the future here in St. Clair Shores. And I think, I'm not sure who brought it up, but, what were our big accomplishments since the last one, okay? Like, what goals did we hit that was on this master plan from our very last one? I'd like to, maybe at some point in the next few weeks, you can, do our successes and accomplishments.
Yeah, I'll get you a list.
Yeah, it's always good to have. Senior accessible issues, seniors accessibility, we got that covered in here. That looked good. I'm glad we addressed that. I'd like to see the Chippewa field was included in there, because that'd be maybe one of our long-term goals, to get that field at Chippewa, the old Chippewa anyways, going up once again. And bringing up those two parks, Blackburn Park and Frizzard Park on Jefferson. You just have to be really tall to see the lake. That was all.
Bring your own ladder.
Bring your own ladder. So it would be great. I in my head, I've got some plans, that I think that we could do to help the nautical mile more. And I think some of that, right, Mayor, is going to be addressed with the Jefferson project, especially at Frizzard Park.
They're working on it. The engineering firm is working on it.
Yeah, so great future. There's always new things to do. One other thing I wanted to bring up, the St. Clair Shores Disc Golf Park, okay, which is located inside of Bryce Park, located with the dog park. Now, unless I missed it in here, is that in here, Rob?
Yeah, it's in there.
Okay, it was in here and listed
It's
as,
listed.
I always wanted to see it listed as a true park, like the dog park or the disc golf park, the Tiziol park there at Kite Monroe.
Yeah, I mean, it's an amenity within Bryce Park, so it's not its own entity, so that's why we list it within Bryce
I
Park.
always wondered why it wasn't classified as its own entity, because I'm just looking forward, is it still encompassed under the umbrella that if there was ever grants for those types of things that we might be able to get, can we get those for the disc golf park?
Yeah, absolutely, because it's
sure.
located within Bryce.
Absolutely. It's right in this master plan, absolutely.
Okay, and a couple other things that I just wanted to note is, I always wondered what the median age here in St. Clair Shores is. The median age is 43 years old, 43 and a half, almost 44. So I'm glad we looked at some of this stuff, especially with the seniors and how that population is going to grow in St. Clair Shores. So we work well with the schools. Accessibility, environment was brought up in here too. So it's a vision of the future. So great job.
Thank you. Mr. Frederick?
Yeah, just real quick. Thanks to both you guys for opening the door and saying, hey, come on in and tell us what you think. And I think, at least I thought the original one we got was a draft of which you wanted comments and changes. And so I definitely appreciate you guys doing it. And one of the biggest things I appreciate is all of the school stuff that you put in there, because a lot of times, you know, we have no control over what the school does, but we have great relationships with those folks. And the fact that it's in here, and I'm not sure if they can take advantage of this from a grant perspective as well, if they need to, but maybe that's something to reach out to the superintendents and see if that's something that they can do. But I thought this was great, and I'd love to move to approve the 5-year Parks and Rec master plan.
Support.
Moved by Mr.
And resolution, right?
And resolution.
Moved by Mr. Frederick, supported by Mr. Karen. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. Thank you. And hopefully, I know in the last 6 or 7 years, we have been successful at least 3 times, right? With the skate park and with the lights at Kite Monroe, which we're working on getting bids out for that, and of course the Bryce Park. So I mean, we have been successful in the last 6 or 7 years. So it pays to do this, and so appreciate all your hard work. And let's hope we're successful the next 5 years getting a number of these grants. So it's great for the people in this community. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for your input.
Item 5 is a request to approve the deficit elimination plan for the police and fire pension millage. This was discussed at a couple meetings ago, and here Renee comes to discuss the plan that was to reduce the deficit. Yes.
Right. Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
As you've just mentioned, we have discussed this before. Per the state requirements, we are required to prepare a deficit elimination plan that would be approved by the council and then submitted to the Michigan Department of Treasury for certification. And the plan that we put together is to levy an additional amount for the police and fire pension millage fund over the next 3 fiscal years that would eliminate this deficit. This plan would minimize the effect on the taxpayers by spreading it out over 3 years. And at the end of that time period, there's expected to be a small fund balance that would help in the future so that we don't run into this problem again.
Good.
But that's basically the plan.
Mr. Lent?
And this has been submitted for pre-approval through the state.
Correct.
And they have confirmed and they have agreed with the recommendation for the next 2, but we have at least already forwarded and got a preliminary approval from the state.
Mr. Frederick?
Have we passed this along to the pension board?
No, but if we pass this,
It would have to be passed on after it. If it's passed, if the resolution is passed tonight, it'll be passed.
Okay, all right. We have a meeting Thursday, so,
We'll get it to
all
you.
right, very good.
Mr. Rubello?
So I know we discussed this, thanks for the time, I came in, I think, Thursday or Friday, but basically, we discussed this before here. So it's just a 3-year payback, it's a manageable payback scheme?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We got no problem doing that, it was just, we went through all the predicaments of the whole, why we're in the spot, so we need to do this, and I will make a motion to approve the resolution for a deficit elimination plan for the police and fire pension millage fund as required by the state of Michigan.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Rebello, supported by Mr. Frederick. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
And then item 6 is the request to approve the deficit eliminating plan for the Parks and Recreation Fund. And we talked about this too, about what occurred and how we merged the funds, et cetera. Renee?
Right. And then, as of July 1st, we've split apart that enterprise fund, and we brought the arena, the pool, and the boat harbor back into the general fund. And so that piece of the deficit will be handled by the general fund balance, which was over 16 million as of June 30th, so there's no problem there. That was 873,000, that piece of it. The rest of it was for the golf course, which if the golf course would have been left on its own, left separate as an enterprise fund, the way it is now, it would have had enough cash at the end of the year to handle where it was, but because we used so much cash for all of the other repairs and things that were happening at the pool and the arena and so forth, there wasn't enough cash left in the golf course. So the part of the deficit that belonged to the golf course was $198,376,000. So we're recommending moving over from the general fund $218,520, which will make the golf course whole to where it should have been, had it been separate. And it'll cover the deficit, plus leave a little bit, about $35,000 cash after all is said and done.
Questions, Mr. Rebello?
Okay, so basically, what we're doing is moving the rest of it back into the general fund,
Right.
keeping the golf course out of it.
Yep.
And so they don't, so they're not getting picked at and with their money
Right.
being taken from there. This is
Yeah.
general fund. Okay, so this is sort of bookkeeping stuff. And the payback, same thing, manageable thing, Mr. City Manager?
Yeah, so this isn't a payback at all. This will actually be covered directly just by the general fund.
Just by
Fund
the-
balance,
okay.
was already there. The one thing is I want to make sure, though, that is stated, is in your chart, you guys do get to see that the golf course in 2022 had a cash flow of 172,000, and in 2023 had 46,928 to the positive. The golf course now being in its own enterprise fund will be able to secure when it continues to make money at our golf course. Thankful to a good golf course staff, and our community has really enjoyed using our golf course. That fund balance will be able to build up in the golf course. And unfortunately, when it was combined with the other entities, and when you had issues at the pool or at the civic arena with some large capital improvements, it was not utilizing a lot of the money that the golf course was. So this will actually help the golf course stay self-sufficient as it has been and not be a drain on the general fund, which it hasn't been, along with the other activities and bringing them back into the general fund.
Yeah.
So this just clears all of that up and allows the golf course to continue to be self-sufficient.
Yeah, it just wasn't real clear, like a enterprise fund. I didn't know what sort of that was. Okay.
Yep, it operates as its own operation, almost like a profitable effort, right? So that's why it's left in that as an enterprise fund. Mr. Karen?
Thank you. Yeah, and on top of that, with it being its own enterprise fund, and Dustin and I had this conversation earlier today, that there does need to be a certain amount of money there in a fund to basically cover longer-term expenses, longer-term employee expenses, and that, I think the scenario Dustin used earlier is that if everyone retired today and there would be a massive payout from there, it would need to cover that. So even though there's going to be now showing a fund balance within that enterprise fund for the golf course, it does need to be a certain amount that has to be there to cover those longer-term expenses, as well as trying to build up additional fund balance to help deal with capital expenses for the golf course going forward. So don't think that because there's 218,000 going in, that can automatically get spent on some capital item. That does have to get held for longer-term expenses, from an accounting purpose. So with that, I make a motion to approve.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Karen, supported by Mr. Rubello, to approve the resolution for the deficit elimination plan for Parks and Recreation as required by the state of Michigan. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 7-0. Renee, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7 is to request to approve a budget amendment for concrete replacement local roads. Denise Pike, good evening.
Mayor, Council, good evening. In August of last year, the then city engineer initiated our local patching program. This is where we look at streets, both on the Paisley rating and then areas where we know there's disrepair, and utilize our concrete contractor to do the patching. During the transition between the city engineer and the end of the program, we utilized the engineering inspector to manage the program. We accomplished a significant amount of repairs, including one of our Paisley streets, Port Street, from Jefferson to Harper. So there was a lot of work done, unfortunately. We also found additional work to be done. Namely, Evergreen Street was very badly deteriorated, and we authorized additional work through the concrete contractor. Fortunately, that contract is up this year, and so we got a very good price, which we may not have in the future. But the end result was that we went over by $50,000, just over $50,000 in the program. And we are asking council to approve a budget amendment of $150,000, which would cover the shortfall for the contractor in that line item, current shortfall in the line item, but also allow for a pot of money to be used for urgent street repairs come spring.
Questions? Mr. Vitale.
Is this our first time that we'd be establishing a fund for urgent street repairs?
Usually, we utilize what's in the budget and we would have money to do that. This time, because we need a budget amendment, only covering the shortfall would leave that line item empty.
So you're talking about using funds from the prior year,
I'm talking about
the past, or?
a budget amendment added to that line item for this year's budget, and having an extra $100,000. So we would essentially raise the budget from $750,000 to $900,000 in the concrete replacement local roads.
So past practice has been there would be some money left at the end of the year.
Correct.
And now, because we've exceeded it, there isn't money, so we're going to add that extra 100,000.
Exactly.
To get us back to normal, essentially.
To allow us to do work in the spring should it be needed.
Okay.
Mr. Rubello.
Denise, in here, you were talking about perhaps a math error. I just wanted to make sure all the math is right on this, because there was a couple different numbers in there. And
So the error was in putting it in correct budget line items. So the inspector doing the work out in the field had put together some quantities. We did go through the new city engineer, who I will make sure is at a coming soon council meeting to be introduced to you all, did put everything in an Excel spreadsheet instead of doing it by hand in the field.
okay, so it's all, go ahead. Oh.
And the big thing, just so we understand the clarity, is when we do concrete replacement, it's not always just for street purposes. There's a lot of times where we have a water main break and we have to go out and then replace a street. So we're replacing the street, but it's because of the water main break. So that water main break replacement will actually come out of the water fund. We'll have the same situation if there's a sewer, same situation for other ancillary reasons. There's concrete replacement that is in your major road, your local road, your water department, and your sewer department. We're here specifically talking about just the replacement for the local road portion, which takes up the majority. And to answer Councilman Vitale's question as well, the last few years, we have tried to take a bigger bite out of fixing a lot of our roads and the repairs. So actually, the last 2 years, for sure, we've asked for a budget amendment to increase the amount of work that we are doing and utilizing the additional money that is in the road fund balance to offset some of those. So each year we set across, and this year's budget was $750,000 to do repairs. But because we had a significant amount of repairs already this year, we are out of money. So what we're asking for is an additional 100,000, just because we know after the freeze thaw of this winter, we're gonna have some repairs that we need to do in early spring. Because of the frost laws, we usually don't get out there and start doing repairs until at least the end of April, beginning of May. By the time that happens anyway, we're already looking at a new fiscal year. We'll start setting up our next budget for July forward. But knowing that we're probably gonna have some repairs that we can do in May and in June, that is where that $100,000 that we're asking for to be able to do that jobs sooner rather than waiting until July.
Okay.
So we did some extra work at the end of the year, correct, with Galooey?
We did some extra work in November, specifically Evergreen Street.
Okay, that was the, all right, well, as long as the numbers all match up and stuff and add up and subtract it out, and I'll move to approve the budget amended for the concrete replacement dash local 203-449-93001 in the amount of $150,000.
Moved by Councilman Rebello.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Frederick, with a question by Mr. Frederick. Question, Mr.
Just a
Frederick?
quick question. I see that 23204 Euclid is on here. That's the one where I think the homeowner may have put a hole in the street. Did we ever follow up and find out, that was the one where the house has like three addresses on it?
We did follow up with that, and it is actually certified. So it's.
So it is certified, but
It's legit.
did we find out who put the hole in the cement there?
That I'm not aware
Okay.
of, but I'll have to go back and check that and answer your question.
Okay, I mean, the only reason I'm asking is if they cut a hole, they should put,
They
I know
should
we
pay
went
for
back
it.
and did it.
Sure.
Because the residents were kind of freaking out about it being dirt
Okay.
for about a year, so, okay. All right, and that's another reason why we need this extra money, because that stuff happens too, where we don't even
Yes.
know how somebody cut a hole. Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Karen.
Yeah, just real quick on Ron's comment of, if we come up with a methodology where we know someone did damage to the road and that we can charge them for when we have to go to repair.
Yeah.
Because I know, this goes back 3 years ago, on Shalon, someone had cut down a tree, did a poor job, it slammed into the road, and where it slammed into the road, it is now fully cracked, and DPW actually came out a couple months ago to actually have to now starting to put cold patch into it. I know that was something we're trying to look into of like, how do we get the repair done to charge back to the person that did it? Still have the video of the tree falling on it, so it's pretty cut and dry of whose responsibility it is. But if we ever come up with that mechanism for how we can
Do that?
charge someone for that type of repair, you got another case, and as well as what happened on Euclid
I
there.
think this one, they don't know who did it, because it was
Oh, yeah, so mine's very clear. I got the video.
yours, Claire. We have no video.
Shouldn't that be a matter of,
Mr. Vitale? Yep.
shouldn't that be a matter of insurance company for a tree company, or was it a homeowner that cut down their own tree?
No, it's a
or-
business owner. Business owner hired the company, and they let the tree fall, and it slammed into the road.
Shouldn't that be one for the city attorney?
Probably.
Okay.
Things like that.
Motion made by Mr. Rebello, supported by Mr. Frederick, to amend the concrete replacement in the amount of $150,000. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 8, the pump house will come back at another meeting, probably next meeting.
Yep.
8B is a request to approve the gasoline and diesel purchasing cooperative contract. Mr. Babcock, DPW Director.
So for Mr. Babcock, get started, it was brought up by a few council members that in the recommended motion is to approve a 4-year contract along with a blanket purchase order. The consortium has awarded a 2-year contract with the opportunity to extend for an additional 2 years. In the past, this is the lowest bidder who has won the last few years, and typically the contracts do get extended, but that is not up to the city, that is only up to the consortium to extend it. So we are going to amend the recommended motion to extend the contract, or to approve a 2-year contract that will expire on January 31st, 2026. And then I'll let Mr. Babcock take over from here.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Go Lions.
Go Lions.
So this first item is, just as previously was explained, this is for the purchase of unleaded and diesel fuel that we use. We have a fuel dock at the DPW that city vehicles use. We have a 12,000-gallon unleaded tank and a 6,000-gallon diesel tank. And this is a mitten bid consortium with 20 communities coming together to get favorable pricing. The price of gas does fluctuate per delivery, but the bid factor is the delivery fee to us. So that's what the vendors bid on, is how much it costs to deliver to us. So this is a recommendation to go with the low bidder. It would be a 2-year contract with an option to extend for an additional two years.
Questions? Ms. Rusi?
To extend if the consortium agrees to the
Yes.
extension, correct?
Yes, and then I'll bring it back to this body and for your approval as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, I was one of the council members who spoke with Dustin. I noticed that it was being a 4-year recommend up to 2028, but the bid was only to 2026.
Yep.
So this is just a 2-year, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Rebello?
Yeah, Brian, I don't know, this appears to be, Sterling Heights and sort of runs the front of this?
Sterling Heights is the one that puts this out to bid, and they award the initial contract, and all the member communities then.
I guess my question was, why Sterling Heights? How do they fall into?
I don't know,
the lead?
as long as I've been with the city, they've always been the ones that
done
have. Yeah,
Okay.
I think,
Probably
I
use
think
the most.
Farmington Hills, they run the salt contract, and, it's just different communities on some of these contracts.
And Dustin, the change from 4 to 2 years doesn't affect any numbers or anything like that?
It is not, nope.
Okay, so I would make a motion to approve the 2-year contract and blanket purchase order for the purchase of gasoline and diesel from February 1, 2024 through January 31, 2028.
2026.
Or 26, rather, from RK Petroleum Company in the annual amount of $435,000. Is that correct?
Moved by Mr. Rebello, supported by Mr. Karen.
Question.
Mr. Frederick?
Are we going to put in, are we going to add the language that if the consortium extends it
Yeah.
another 2 years, that, administration would have the, or
just-
do you want to just have it?
I don't think we need to do that. I mean, Mr.
Okay.
Babcock gets that recommendation by the consortium, he'll bring it.
Just
he'll bring it
wondering
to
if we
yeah.
needed that.
No, I
Okay.
think we're fine.
I'd
Fine
say
either
one
way.
more comment.
Yes, Mr. Rebello?
Brian, who checks the tanks and the storage tanks for leakage or anything like that? So something like that doesn't creep up on us in the future.
We have both a monitoring and alarming system at the DPW, and we also have a company that does quarterly inspections for us.
Thank you.
Moved by Mr. Rebello, supported by Mr. Karen. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 7-0. Thank you. And then 8C is the request to approve 10-mile water reservoir maintenance contract extension.
So as you know, the city owns and operates a 4 million gallon drinking water storage reservoir at the northwest corner of 10 Mile and Harper. In this contract, we went out in 2018 and for bids to perform annual maintenance on the reservoir itself, which at that time included interior and exterior painting. So the initial contract was a 5-year contract, and the pricing for those 5 years included both annual inspections and maintenance work, as well as interior and exterior coating. That initial bid also provided an opportunity for the companies to have a longer-term contract with the city, and it had provisions in there for an up to 5% price increase per year after the initial 5 years to continue on with the maintenance and interior and exterior coating work. The city, or not the city, the nationwide standard for these reservoirs is that the exteriors be painted every 10 years and that the interiors be painted every 15 years. In front of you here is a proposal to extend that contract for an additional 11 years, looking forward at the exterior needing to be cleaned in year 5, and the interior needing to be recoated in year 10. That was my recommendation. If, a 10 or 11-year contract is too long of a period, we can go year to year. With this contract, I would recommend at least going up to that first major improvement, which is the exterior coating, so a 5-year contract. So we can get up to that point and at least get that done, and then we can revisit this and see if we want to, continue on with this contract or seek a new one.
So there were 2 bidders,
Yes.
and is knowing maybe the industry a little bit, you do, is that common? I mean, right, I would think you wouldn't have a lot of bidders for this, but so is.
Yeah, these companies, there's 2 main ones, and their crews travel all over the country coating these reservoirs, because they only need to be done every 10 to 15 years. It's not like there's, that much work to have local companies for this stuff.
So then you also have 5-year contract was round numbers, $1,068,000, correct?
Yeah, first 5 years.
That was the initial one, yes.
First 5.
Right, that's the initial one.
Correct.
And so what you brought to us now is an 11-year contract, which is quite long. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not very often we do something this long. And this may be the longest one I've ever seen, but the interesting part to me was that it's only $935,000 total for the next 11 years. Is that, I mean, that's the way I'm reading this. Is that correct? And is that why you're recommending the length of this contract?
Yeah, so we would get, twice the terms of the original contract, 11 years, at lower cost than the initial 5 years. So there is some savings there by stretching out the contract. And this is how, these companies propose, is that you spread out the cost, so you're not paying everything all at once when you need to do your coatings. You're building a relationship together where we get together every year, we inspect the interior, exterior, and make sure that these coatings are holding up and that they're doing what they're supposed to do.
Okay. Questions, Mr. Caring?
Thank you. Yeah, I get the benefit that you're proposing here, Brian. What I guess I'm with the way that this is set up, it is just so different than anything else we do for a maintenance agreement. The first 5 years, because basically when we awarded that, we knew we needed interior, exterior, a lot of work done. That was about, roughly $1 million worth of work that was really done in that first year. And then it was the regular inspection and maintenance, which is, much less expensive going forward after that. Really what this is proposing is that we're gonna pay them to do the inspection work and let them bank money in order to do the future work. So we're letting them save the money rather than us. And any of these contracts that, this one was awarded uniquely because it was, rather than taking $1 million hit to the water fund in 1 year, we spread it out to $250,000 over 4 years. And I agree with that decision then, but I'm really struggling with this one of where we're gonna let them bank it, where we don't really have an itemized of, here's what the annual inspection is, and we would pay, that fee plus 5% for each year, or we know what the exterior coating is gonna cost, and maybe there is an inflationary charge on that, the 5%. If it was itemized like that, I might be more comfortable. But since it's not, I just not feeling comfortable with what's being proposed here tonight. So that's it.
Mr. Vitale.
Yeah, let me try to maybe scenarioize, if that's a word, what Councilman Karen said. I do appreciate the fact that we're in with an 11-year contract, less than we were in with a 5-year contract at a time when materials were less expensive. So that doesn't go without being noticed. But the problem would arise in that we're basically paying more in all these inspection years where there really isn't a lot of capital cost or expense for them. we're paying more than they're really expending on this, with the idea that when we do get hit with the $250,000 water tank repaint charge, we're actually only going to see an $86,000 because we've been paying more in all these prior years than what it really would have cost. So I think that's the idea, that they're taking our money and maybe earning interest on it and doing whatever they do with it. The danger would then become, what if we go through year 6, 7, 8, 9 on the contract, they banked all this money, and then they file for bankruptcy in year 10 when we've got our big expense coming up? Or the quality of work becomes really bad in year 8, or, you know, and this company's even changed names in the time that we've been dealing with them, so it's nothing on their quality of their work, but it could happen. So then what kind of an out do we have, and how do we get, if we got to go, let's just say the bankruptcy scenario. They've now collected all this additional money for 4 years prior, then they file for bankruptcy. We still need a $250,000 paint job, and we don't have the money to cover it. You see how that could go south? Even though it's great to see that an 11-year contract here, we're in for less than we were in with a 5-year contract. How do we prevent that from happening?
Well, I do want to mention also that each year of this contract, it's not like we're just building up to the exterior coating. I mean, that's the big cost. But they also are doing annual inspections. There are times that they actually drain down and wash out the interior of these tanks, which we do get sediment building up, and it's an important, process to clean out that reservoir. There's also a mixing system within the reservoir that is requires quite a bit of maintenance, and they've honored, their warranty in that, and they come out and repair it.
I'll put this scenario out. Let's just say that we were going to bid, year 6 of this, which is visual inspection, repairs, and emergency service. We might get a bid that was, say, $40,000, and we're banking $30,000 towards that eventual paint job we're going to need. So that's kind of $30,000 that's in their bank. That if they were to go under or something catastrophic were to happen, we'd still be on the hook and had paid all that money for something that we had no way to be made whole on. Or now, maybe there's a way to address this legally. I don't know. Maybe there's a bookkeeping way to put this in some sort of separate protected fund. I don't want to look the other way at the savings here, but I don't know.
You mean like a performance bond?
A bond is kind of comes to mind. Yeah, that is.
I think we have a bond with you.
I don't know. We'd have to, again.
It's a lot to try to hash out.
Well, there is
with
that here. I mean, I think that there's other people who want to speak, so we want them to speak. But I think some of that, I think we're going to have to table probably to get more additional information and come back. But I don't know, Mr. Lent.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I think that, give us the opportunity to try to see if we can get some itemized numbers to find out exactly if we were just to do the exterior painting and then the interior painting and then the difference for the regular inspection, what that would be just in year 6. As well as let us try to find out legally what kind of bond that we could possibly put towards this, and then try to come back to council with some new information, and then we can address it at that point. Because I think there is a lot of questions and a lot more information that needs to be handled before we continue on with this approval.
I think you need the third option too, is to make it a 5-year and see
right.
here's what we were going to do for 5 years, and this would be what we would do in year 6, 7, and then come year 10 we repaint and that. So we get that too.
Yep.
Mr. Vitale, are you good? I'll go down to Ms. Rusi.
I think everybody kind of gets the idea of what I'm saying here.
Ms. Rusi.
Thank you. I read this and I was flabbergasted. An 11-year no bid contract extension. If it was a 1-year no bid contract extension, I'd be against it. If it was an 11-year bid out contract, I'd probably be against committing the city to 11 years of this. An 11-year no bid contract extension is the worst of both worlds, I guess. I am completely against this idea. I know you cited the original contract that was bid out. We had the two bidders back in 2018. The maximum annual cost increased beyond 5 years, but we didn't award beyond 5 years. We awarded a 5-year contract back in 2018, so that's neither here nor there. I mean, that wasn't part of the award we did back in 2018. We did 5 years. And now we have this proposal, 11 years, no bid, and I understand Mr. Vitale's point, Councilman Vitale's point about committing to an 11-year contract with us. I know it just states that, Suez was it was formerly Suez, now it's this. It was more than just a name change, it was a corporate change. Suez was acquired by Veolia. Veolia inherited Suez as part of a bunch of stuff. Veolia decided, I don't want to do this anymore, so we're going to get rid of this, I guess. So Veolia brought into, I guess, USG, which is the current company, but back in February, I was looking at this as like, how did it just change names? It didn't. Then back in February 2023, it was acquired by a capital partner company and now is an independent company. So it's actually different corporate structurally too. And it's now its own little company owned by this capital partner company, separate from how it used to be part of these bigger companies. So it's kind of interesting, I guess, just to how committing to an 11-year contract with kind of a new company that may look the same, but financially it's a different company. So I don't know. I was just doing some research into how did this change names. It was more than just a name change. It was a corporate ownership change because it was divested from one company and acquired by this and then divested. And this whole thing, I could probably chart it out, but it's ultimately owned by a capital partner company. And now it's as of just not even a year ago, it's its own independent company. So it's kind of interesting that way, but it's more than just a name change, I guess, is the point. It kind of, I mean, we have some financials in here from 10 years ago, which really don't mean anything now because it's a whole different entity. So anyway, yeah, no, 11-year, no bid contract extension, no 11-year, no bid contract extension. I'm definitely a no on committing the state to this. You know how I feel about the bid process, and I think that's something we need to respect rather than, well, they do a really good job. Here's, let's commit to 11 years of it. I think that goes against the whole policy we have about why we bid things out in the first place. That's it. Thank you.
Ms. Burgess.
A little new at this, so I wasn't around when the first one was done, but I'm having a little bit of problems because I don't know what all this is, there's no, like, Councilman Karen said, there's nothing that's detailed out. This seems almost like an insurance policy to me. And I would not be real good at saying yes to this because I don't understand how it's so much money to be put aside to, like I said, like an insurance policy when we don't know exactly what each thing is costing us. We're kind of just giving them free will. It's kind of the way I'm seeing it.
Thank you. Mr. Frederick.
Thanks, Mayor. So a couple questions. We have in here emergency services. How often do we run into that situation? I know it's hard to predict emergency, but.
They were out, I think it was the first week of the year this year, and had to do a repair on a mixing stirring component within the reservoir.
And that's all included in our pricing, right? Mm-hmm. And I guess the second thing is the fact that the first 5 years was all front-loaded, across if you looked at the whole 16-year contract, it's all front-loaded. I would hate to get in that situation where, okay, we bid this out and now we got to start over and front-load something else. That's the biggest thing that worries me, that the 70,000 turns into another 250,000 because we go with another company who now, for whatever reason, of course, who knows what these guys would bid for this if we're bidding it out. And then if you look at just the 5 years, we're talking about, about 498,000 if we went with years 6 through 10. And then the other, I guess the last question is the timing on this. You said they came out this year, so clearly we're covered this year through this contract. So when does the 5-year end? I missed that in here.
Well, that repair that they did is because that mixer is still under warranty, but the contract actually expired in, it would have been November 1st, 2023, or October 31st, 2023.
So we're kind of hanging out there right now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is,
Not good.
we're not running a reservoir right now. It's,
Right.
it's mainly used in the summertime.
So it's funny, Linda, when you said insurance, I mean, that's exactly what I thought, that this was a way to make sure that if something major really does happen, that, we're there already. The amount of time, Candace, I know where you're at on that. You're always pretty much there, with, no bid, but, this was originally bid, right? There was
Yep.
and that's how we got to these options for 5 through 16. I guess I'm worried about hanging out there. I'm hoping that we can do something. And maybe, Dustin, you think you can come back by the next meeting with something? And
I do. I think we'll have some more information by the next meeting, even if the next meeting is a small extension to get us through to a bid.
Okay, because I mean, it says stuff here: visual inspection, repairs and emergency services, drain tank, remove sediment, clean, wash out, inspection of the interior tank. Visual inspections, repairs and emergency services, I mean, exterior clean and 2-coat painting. And then even goes way down to year 15, interior blast and 2-coat painting. So I know we've done a lot to keep this tank functioning, especially in the summer, because we save money for our residents because of this. And, I don't want to roll the dice and have something happen. And anyway, I'd be willing to wait, till the next meeting, but not much past that for sure.
Mr. Rubello?
I can do the math here from everybody. Okay, so the timeline on this, Brian, is what? When does that thing have to be done? Is there any?
We try to have it up and running within the month of May.
So it has to be painted and?
No, not this year.
no.
No, we're ready to go for this year. So, but
okay.
we'll get with the company, we'll put
Okay,
together
so
some
we're
options
not
for
on some
council.
crazy timeline like that.
5 years before they have to paint it
Yeah,
again.
so what do? Do we go back out for bid, or do we
I don't think we.
shorten the contract?
I think Mr. Lent laid out three possibilities. I think that you need to send it back to them and not get into all what the options were. He laid them out to go back to USG and come back to us with, 3 possibility scenarios. So
Okay,
and
'cause-
let them do that. We aren't under the time frame, but I understand certainly Mr. Frederick's point of right, we need to move on it. We don't need to moved tomorrow, but we don't need to sit on this. So, and I think you'll get them in and start working with them right away.
Okay, just so you know, I'm not in favor. I feel 11 years, a little too long for me. So do we table this, or?
I think that's the way we should go, but there, as you
Okay.
know, with tabling, there will be no more comments. So I would ask the whole that we do see 2 more pencils up, or pens up, so down here.
Okay.
So let us get their comments, and then I think we should table and we would move on. Mr. Karen?
Thank you. Yeah, just to kind of clarify, when we approved this work back in 2018, it was because we had a report from our engineering firm, HRC, 'cause I went and pulled the original bid documents of what we put out there. And it was basically because we were at a point where we needed to do major work in the tank. And I remember, and that was a discussion at the time of even if we put $1 million into the tank, does it still save us money? And the answer was, yep, it still saves us money.
Yep.
So we're gonna go ahead and do it. The whole discussion of the long-term visual inspection, repair, emergency services, I don't think that was a big part of the discussion back then. That's kind of what's catching at least me off guard, and I think some of my colleagues off guard as well. Is that when that was first approved, it was never foreseen to be this 15-year agreement. And that even though the one line in there about the 5% was part of the bid document, it wasn't detailed out about what that schedule would be or what they'd be doing. So Yeah, so if we can come back with, more itemized, some guarantees, perhaps the performance bond to protect against, the bankruptcy option, especially since if we're into, as Councilwoman Marusi said, a private equity fund, basically now owning it, multiple different things could happen to the company. So, so I appreciate seeing what future options we have at the next meeting.
And then Mr. Vitale.
Yeah, I'll just say this. I kind of thought of this when we were kind of going around the table discussing, and actually thought of it when we were talking about our gasoline purchases. I was going to say maybe we could get residents to pay in Kroger gas cards or something, but, because you get points. And it actually kind of applies in a way to this too, because just to kind of make these numbers smaller and maybe make it make sense, like I spend a lot of money at Home Depot, so I'll buy Kroger gift cards when they're at 4 times points because I'm getting a good deal then, even if I don't necessarily have to buy something at Home Depot, because I know I will, because I have faith that neither Home Depot nor Kroger will go out of business, so I'll spend ahead a little bit to save money. And in a larger way, this is kind of what we're doing here. Okay, we're spending ahead with the idea that we're going to save money going forward. But I don't know this company, and when I'm doing it, I'm only risking a couple $100, and I only have to go out 1 month in the future. This, I have to go out 11 years in the future, and we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we should have some kind of bonding mechanism in place to make sure that those gas card points will never go away and that our gift cards will never be worthless. Does that make sense? Okay. With that, I'll make a motion to table.
Thank you. Moved by Mr. Vitale, supported by Mr. Karen to table. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 9, consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Kieran, supported by Mr. Frederick. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item 10, updates and follow-ups from prior meetings. Mr. Lentz.
Number 1, Mr. Vitale requested the cost breakdown for what DPW charges for trash cleanup at a home. Per Mr. Babcock, he has reviewed the code enforcement cleanups that the DPW employees respond to homes that have left garbage at the curb at either unallowable times or unallowable items. During 2023, the DPW cleaned up 29 homes at an average cost of $211.60, billed to the property owner. The billed amount included the employee's billable rate, which includes wages and fringe benefits, the equipment rate, plus a $20 administrative fee. We are in agreement that the fees should be higher. We are working currently on civil infractions that could be added to that violation, as well as billing them for their time. The DPW will work with community development and the city attorney's office to increase the amount billed, as you had suggested, and will come back in front of council as part of this fee violations.
One item on that, and I'm glad Mr. Babcock is here. First of all, I can thank you personally for taking the time to go through that and actually get me some good numbers. I'm glad to see that it was 29, so it wasn't like, 2 or 3 like I'd kind of heard. I'm glad to see we're still out doing that. And if my understanding is correct, the city basically still owns a garbage truck.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yep.
So it's our people, yeah, go ahead and come up.
Yeah, we have a single garbage truck, which is pretty old. So if we have,
I've seen it.
if we have larger items, sometimes we'll use that log loading truck, the clamp truck. We'll pick up larger items with that, put it in there, and then take it to the transfer site. We also have a dumpster that we can utilize with a front end loader, because with the age of that garbage truck, we're
No, I get it. You don't want to overstress the hydraulics on it
Yeah.
and be in front of us for $1 million garbage truck.
Yeah.
So I totally get that, and maybe part of this fee going forward should be a fund to put money aside for a someday new garbage truck, so the city has one, or a used garbage truck or something to replace the ancient one that we have. So thank you for getting that, but I also got to tell you, I just bought a small-sized dumpster and paid over $300. So we are nowhere near, I paid $400 actually. We are nowhere near what the market charges for waste disposal. So we have got to get this corrected, not to mention that if I call a dumpster up, I have to make room for it in the driveway, and it's a big inconvenience, and I got to throw it over the side of the dumpster and everything like that. The city's offering a good deal. I was thinking, really, I should just go put a bunch of stuff on the curb and then report myself, so it gets taken away quick and save half price. We've got to fix this.
Yeah.
So,
All right,
and thank you for doing that work.
thank you.
Ms. Rucci asked that the liquor license application and corresponding documents be reviewed for possible revision. That is in the process. Mr. Vitale requested that answers to council's requests include detail instead of a general policey email. Noted, and information above was given in a document. So it's an email.
Awesome, that was great.
Mr. Frederick asked if an additional non-stopping standing parking sign can be installed by Tropical Smoothie on Red Maple Lane near Greater Mac. That is under review by the police department.
I can tell you that I had a long conversation with the chief, who went out there and took a look and looked at what the ordinance is and what we have to do to get it done. And I'm glad we talked, because the other side of the street from where he was thinking it was going to go is really where it should go. And I think it'll solve that problem, not only for the residents, but for safety on that street.
Excellent. Thank you. And with that, we will move on to comments by individual council members, and Mr. Vitale.
Oh, well, I was good. See, can I borrow that for a second, Ron? What do you need? I was going to make a joke when Ron read his library comments. He should just hold it up. That's an even bigger font than last week.
Yeah, it is.
Last meeting.
It's always one page.
No, I can't, because I'm going in front of you. You know what? Actually, I don't have a whole lot to report tonight.
Okay.
So I'm going to let everybody move on.
Thank you. Ms. Burgess.
Thank you. I did receive a letter from a resident asking to review a no turn on red sign that was at the intersection of Cavalier and Greater Mac there, right by the post office. I went out there and took a look at, I went to all four points of that red light there, and I can see the point that what they said here was, let's see, as a resident of the city, I use this intersection countless times a day. In order to do so, I've been able to observe that the presence of this sign is not necessary, and the removal of the sign would actually improve the efficiency of traffic at this intersection. While I understand that the sign are put in place to improve safety for both pedestrians and drivers alike, I believe the sign accomplishes neither of these things and only serves to slow down traffic. The sight line going in both directions are completely clear, and for this reason, the sign is unnecessary, and its removal would most certainly be improving traffic flow. So I went there, and I kind of agree with the resident. I sat at the Cavalier on the west side of the street for a good 3 minutes with two other cars in front of me that wanted to turn on red, that could not, and there was no traffic coming the other way. So I kind of agree to it, but I don't know the ins and outs of who makes these decisions.
Let's send it to the police chief, let the police chief review it with the traffic control, and then we'll get back with you.
And the other thing is, I had an opportunity to go to the Frosted formal this weekend on Friday, and it was phenomenal. It's by the Parks and Recs for the adaptive, for the 25 and older group of disabled kids, well, young adults. It was phenomenal, and I really had a good time, and I just wanted to put a shout out to everybody at Stand Out for putting this on and for all the dedication and just I tell you, I cried a couple times during it, just seeing the faces on the kids and how much fun they were having. And the last thing I want to say is go Lions. It was a fabulous game yesterday, and I'm looking forward to seeing some more success.
Thank you. Mr. Rubello.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Ms. Pike, Community Development Block Grant Funds coming up for 2024?
They are. The public hearing, I believe, is going to be in March, but I'll confirm that and send it along to council.
Okay, that'd be great to have some some stats on that. I don't know if you can also get us everything that was used up, everything that we gave out in 2023, was it all used up? And if it wasn't, is there any carryover? Is it sort of, if somebody can come get their money, is that sort of done for 2023?
No, the organizations have time to still spend down their money. It is a reimbursement program, so they have to provide receipts. So it isn't as if we cut them off, automatically come budget period. But I know that both Liz and Kenny Blankenship, who is the CDBG coordinator right now, have been aggressively working with groups to get them to spend their money.
Okay, because those are obviously pretty handy, some groups and so forth. How many, I guess, Rob, not at this time, but how many sailboats do we have in our marina? I noticed that, some of the dredging and so forth, you don't have to do this right now, but it's...
I don't know the number off the top of my head. It's not a lot, but I'll get you the number.
Because obviously, we had an item that was passed up here, but as far as the people, the sailboats, does it mean that we have to dredge more and more? Because I know some marinas don't have or cut back on the amount of sailboats when the water level's low.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily related directly to sailboats. I mean, they do have a harder time just because of the
Keel.
Yes, thank you. The keel in the back. But the dredging's not directly related just to sailboats.
Okay.
It's by recommendation from the engineering firm.
Okay, because I didn't know if this would help us not have to dredge more. Okay, makes no difference to you?
I don't think so.
Okay.
We'll look into it, but I don't think so.
Okay, and I was reading about in the Macomb Daily, and this would be, I guess, for Denise Pike again, a hazard mitigation plan. Can you look into that? And that basically, is what happens with, in case of emergencies and so forth. I guess, Chief Piper, you know a little bit about that? A lot about it? Okay. So you don't have to come up. Maybe just give us what our type of plan is that involves the city of St. Clair Shores, okay? And I don't know if you folks have seen these, but these are available around town at City Hall, at the senior center. But boy, oh boy, is there a lot of information here about St. Clair Shores and some of the programs that we do. So I think you can get this online too. Everybody in St. Clair Shores should be reading this because it really highlights our senior center and all the great things that we do in here. So there's things to do nearly every single day. And Denise, I wanted to get with you, I guess, this is the stuff I'm into, bridge builders, micro grants, things like that, available through the Michigan Municipal League. And I'd like to go over some of the stuff with you that I think that we might be able to get grants on, okay? A lot of this stuff here I've preached over the past. I like to highlight St. Clair Shores. And that's why sometimes I ask you to, do these things with the Michigan Municipal League. I think it's wonderful. And I just don't want anything to slip through our fingers. We're in competition with the rest of the cities. I'm not sure somebody said that last council meeting, but that sure is true. I don't want to fall behind any of the cities that surround us because, they're making strides. I read a lot of papers and stuff, and I don't want to be second fiddle to any of them. So and that's how I feel on that. Rob Spinazzola, Nino, Brandon, all from the Parks and Rec Department. You guys were out there in that Aqua Freeze Fest, and that was brutal. Day 2 was brutal. Okay, because I can't believe that you guys stuck it out like that. I mean, I was out there on Sunday for like 10 minutes. I came on Saturday, was out there Sunday for 10 minutes, and I was like, no way.
Yep, tough.
Okay, I can't do it. And hats off to the mayor too, because the mayor's pretty heavily involved with, those activities there too. I would give you a Muskrat Award, but I don't think you'll take it, okay? So, but to you, Rob, I don't think you ever got one before. You get the Muskrat Award, Brandon and Nino, okay, for an incredible job.
Robert Adams was there too.
Robert Adams.
A.K.A. Ricky Bobby.
Okay,
Yep.
Those three guys deserve it.
Absolutely.
top notch.
Tough Sunday. I mean, literally tough. Brutal.
And to our DPW guys and our sewer guys out there over the past week, 10 days, or whatever long this thing has lasted, it's cold weather. Muskrat Award. For those of you wondering what the heck a Muskrat Award, it's the city logo of St. Clair Shores, the muskrat, and he sort of looks like this, okay? This is a scrunched down version of him, okay? Thank you for all your hard work, you guys, really, okay? In case you don't hear it enough. And
That's a communication
second to last thing is
problem.
the St. Clair Shores Memorial Day Parade is, we've dusted off and we're ready for 2024 to bring you one heck of a parade. So that's going on, and of course,
That's exciting.
yeah, it's May.
Yeah.
So go Lions. Okay, so it's great to see it. After 61 and a half years, I don't remember anything like this. So go West, San Francisco. Out there, beat them. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Ms. Rusi.
Thank you. Your muskrat needs a bath, Dave. It's like your dog got to him again.
It subs as a dog toy when it's at home.
One time you put it lost under the bed because a dog took it under for like a few months. We're like, where's the muskrat?
Or like when I found it in the parking.
You found it in the,
Driven over. Ms. Rusi.
thank you.
Hair combed by Tahir.
Just talking about the council updates and follow-up report. Another, I guess, suggestion maybe for some process improvements, which I do appreciate. Not just see the email, but actually, getting more of an update about what the summary about what that is maybe for updates and follow-ups where it's just, this is in the process, or this is in the works, or this was referred somewhere. We have an automatic carryover to the next council meeting. So rather than just falling off, to help, I guess, increase tracking and accountability, I think that would help us know what's still out there pending and what hasn't been resolved yet. So maybe a follow-up like that. And to that extent, I, do appreciate the construction updates we receive weekly when, I know not much is going on now, but when things pick up, those have been very helpful to have because residents will always have questions either in person or on Facebook. It's nice to have those handy to help answer them. Same thing, we used to receive, and this was prior to you, and maybe even a little bit before, but we used to receive staff meeting minutes. That was kind of helpful too about what was discussed during the staff meetings. And it was nice to kind of keep up maybe with some of the personnel changes through those. So maybe if we could get those again, I would appreciate that. But like going back to the carryover to next meeting rather than falling off, like the liquor license app review, just even if the next update's just, still in process or something, but that way it helps us keep track. There's a lot of open issues out there and helps us keep track of what we need to keep track of to get to a resolution. So, and then just one quick announcement from the Cultural Committee, the St. Clair Shores Cultural Committee. I'm the council liaison to that. We are having, we're doing now, instead of just the field trips where we all meet at the library and take a bus and to the DIA or something like that and take the bus back, we're trying to, a new thing out in addition to that, and we're trying to host some local meetups where instead of providing the transportation, we just plan to meet up with people at a local place, and this will help hopefully increase our ability to have these type of field trips, either evenings or on weekends, or, times when we weren't able to get the bus. Usually the bus is just available during the days, weekdays, and when it's not otherwise occupied. So we held one at the Michigan Military Technical Museum in East Point just 2 weeks ago. They were doing a Rosie the Riveter talk, and it was just, we had half the room packed just from our group. And the people who bought the tickets through the cultural committee, and it was, I think, a big hit and appreciated. It was on a Sunday, so people who normally work during the day were able to attend. So we were hosting a meetup at a local business at the Refill Emporium on Harper, 21524 Harper. Learn about recycling and making your own bath salts. The SCS Cultural Committee is hosting an evening out to learn about recycling and to make a craft of bath salts you can take home the same day. The price is $15 for a seat at the informational talk, and the 8-ounce jar of bath salts that you will create. This includes 5 bath salt scents, the jar, the bath bag, and all the mix-ins for the bath salts like sea salt, flowers, and herbs. You can make more than one if you want. Valentine's Day is coming up. And you can purchase the additional jars at the event. The Refill Emporium is Macomb County's first refill shop. It's a zero-waste shop with the goal of eliminating the need for single-use plastics in everyday life. They're helping make the planet one refill, helping the planet one refill at a time! Exclamation point. A seat for this talk, along with the make and take bath salt jars, $15. Tickets can be purchased at Refill Emporium or online at their website. The talk is, unfortunately, it's Monday, February 5th, so council won't be able to attend because we'll be occupied. 6:30 p.m. to 8:15 p.m. And we're just meeting up at the Refill Emporium at 21524 Harper. Again, this is Monday, February 5th, 6:30 p.m. to 8:15 p.m. Tickets are available at Refill Emporium or on their website, www.refillemporium.com. And this is, again, through the Cultural Committee. So we're trying now a new thing to increase our programming to people with different availabilities. So me up at Refill Emporium.
It's a great place.
And a Happy New Year. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Karen.
Thank you. A few items tonight. First, any update on 48080 water bills and what's going on there?
Yes, that's actually as part of my report, so thanks. Water bills have been delayed. The company that we use that does our printing had a kind of security breach, and they are working to secure all of their printers. It had nothing to do with data as of now, but it did shut down their printers as soon as they had it. Their fall safe kind of put everything off circuit. So as of right now, all delay penalties for the water bills will be delayed. There will not be penalties for the water bill. We are working with another contractor to try to get out information to be able to provide all of our residents their water bill for the district that has not been printed. And that's kind of where we are now.
Okay. I think just, like this thing, well, basically I don't think it's ever happened before, something like that, but this is, I think, another case about where it's helpful to get out in front of communication, because I think we all as council first became aware of it when someone started asking on Facebook that they're looking at their bill on site, basically on the website, and they were gonna see, oh, it's due today, right? Would have been the normal due date. And then I know I communicated to Renee. She got me an answer right away, what was going on, knows there's a delay, don't know when they're gonna go out. I was able to convey that back to the Facebook post and a few of the residents that answered me on it. But that's kind of something of like, when we knew something was gonna be delayed, communication going out to residents, like we could have been more forthcoming with, hey, we know there's an issue, we're not gonna, won't be, late charges or anything like that, and we'll keep everyone posted through various social medias or, special alert on the website so that we're aware going forward. Rather than us kind of finding out about it because someone happened to ask a question and realizing, oh yeah, we didn't get a water bill yet.
So this was kind of a unique situation. When we found out was the day actually before you had contacted us. Vicky reached out immediately to the company, and the company was being very vague with their answers. We have had quite a bit of issues with the company being forthright with the information. Obviously, I don't think they wanted to admit that they had kind of a breach in what the security detail was. So at that point, before we relayed the information and put out the communication, we wanted to make sure we had all the right information and that the bills were going to go out the next day and say, hey, yeah, there was 1 day delay. When the next day came and those bills weren't sent out and we weren't getting any communication, that's when Vicki sent an email out to council relaying the information that we have a delay and we're waiting on. And at that point, we were told that they would be printed out by that Friday. That Friday came again, no information. We immediately started looking for another company to be able to do some of the printing. The following Monday, we were told, and then, each time we finally get a different excuse and a different answer.
Yeah, and I get that from the printer. But what you just said, timeline-wise, doesn't really line up with the communications that I talked about. I remember getting the Vicki email. It was a few days after the initial email response I had from Renee, because I even think it came up on a weekend, and Renee got back to me first thing on Monday morning on it, and I think the Vicki email came out a few days later than that. So, but it is just more of when we know things are impacted, that I don't think there's any harm saying, hey, there is a delay, stay tuned, type information going out while we do figure things out. I do appreciate that, Vicki was trying to get a handle on everything, understand what's going on, dealing with a difficult contractor, but we could have gotten more information out there and that, so going forward. Okay, that was that. And then, the one thing in the master plan, we did talk about certifying the Arboretum at Bryce Park. And Denise, who's taking the lead on that in terms of that process?
We just, about a month ago, maybe 2, received the report back from Davey Tree on the Arboretum, what's there. I think we need to pull together a meeting internally and talk about next steps for that.
Because I'd like to be a part of that, because not only from the planning that we did a year and a half ago, but also went through and did my own kind of documentation using a plant app on the phone to identify the trees that were planted 25 years ago. So I know we got a variety that meets that, and maybe it's just a way of how we have to document it, or I'd like to see what Davey came back with that may not jive with what we know is there. So, yeah, I'd like to be involved to kind of get that moved along for this year, so, okay. And last, I do know that for the golf course, we do have the memorial bricks now available. We got the link not only up through social media pages, it's up on the city website. And then people can come and fill out the form at the Parks and Rec office as well. Correct, Rob?
No, it's all supposed to be done.
Rob, you gotta come to the podium and answer that, please, so everyone can hear.
So let me suggest this.
Yeah, if someone needs assistance, they can go to the golf course or come to Parks and Rec, and we'll walk them through purchasing it on the website.
Okay, because there was a option when you went to the website, because it sends you to the third party. And that, for one thing, people to know, that you're not writing it to St. Clair Shores. It's going to a third party, it's all legit. But they did have an option in there to print out a form if you wanted to do it manually.
He's in the process of getting it corrected. Yeah, we found it last week that it was allowing people to do that, but we want people to just purchase them
Just do
online.
it, okay. But if they want to do it through Parks and Rec, they can
Yeah,
come
we'll
into
walk
the
them
office
through
and do
it.
it there.
Sure.
Okay. But yeah, that's basically to fund the renovation of T1 at the golf course. So to purchase memorial bricks, and all the information is out there. So please, everyone go through that so we can get the project kind of crowdfunded and get it moving. So that'll be it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Frederick.
Thanks, Mayor. So, everybody go get their pad of paper and a pen out, because I'm going to give you some dates right after I do this very special, very exciting thing. Our good friend who passed away, Pete Asha, had a vision about doing something at the end of the pier that had to do with either a telescope or binoculars or something like that. And we put the word out for donations, and I have in my hand a bunch of checks that came in. And I know, Mayor, you were involved in some of this. And by the way, you can still make donations. Where's the best place to take that, Mr. City Manager?
Right here.
Yep,
Right here?
City Hall.
City
So
Hall.
the city clerk's
Yeah, city
or
clerk.
the
Yep,
cashier?
city clerk.
Clerk's office, okay. So I can tell you, I've got some checks in my hand. They range from, $25, $50, even $10, $100, $300, and then there's really one very big one in here for $5,000. So we are well on our way to do this very cool memorial for Mr. Ashes. So I'm pretty excited about that. We still need more, and I'm counting on everybody that's watching tonight, even if it's $1, $5, $10, 25. Bring it on down to City Hall or send it in, and Mr. City Manager, I'm going to give you those. And here's an envelope in case you need it.
Please.
Dave Rebello, I know you got a check coming because you told me you're working on that check, so.
he's pulling
Oh, he's
cash
got
out now.
cash.
He's
He's got cash. Renee, we're going to need a receipt for that cash here tonight, so anyway. All right. Thanks, you guys. Thanks, everybody that's donating. This is
cash going into a white envelope?
Yeah.
I'm putting even the amount.
This is a big deal. We want to honor Pete because he was such a great council person up here and just did a ton for us, the city, whether it was building a bathroom, redoing the hockey, locker rooms, and just a multitude of other things. So, okay, while you've got your pad of paper out, I just want to let everybody know that the Miss St. Clair Shores pageant is going to be on February 11th, 2 o'clock at Lake Shore. Now, February 11th happens to be the Super Bowl, but that's okay. This is at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The Super Bowl doesn't start till like 9 o'clock at night, so. Anyway, but.
6:30, but okay.
Kickoff, but okay.
6:30 is when, I think that's when everything starts.
Okay.
It's a long game. There's a lot of commercials they got in it, so. Anyway, so 2 o'clock Lake Shore, probably lasts about an hour and a half. Also, every Thursday, and now the jackpot's getting up every Thursday at Firehouse, the Kiwanis Jack of Spades fundraiser. Jackpot is almost at $8,000, and I know Linda will be there selling tickets next Thursday, right? So we're really appreciative of not only Firehouse but Kiwanis raising this money. And then the other thing I wanted to mention too is our firefighters, the union, the St. Clair Shores Firefighters Local 1744. Friday, March 8th, they are having a night at the races, which is a really great way to have some fun, bet on a horse, and then they're raising money, which is going to go towards the firefighters fund. It's a cancer fund, and a lot of times they'll support the burn center and a few other things. And again, this is going to be on March 8th, 7 p.m. to midnight. It's going to be at Blossom Heath Inn, so it'll be a great time and a great venue. If you need more information, you can contact SCS FFULOCAL. That's St. Clair Shores Firefighter Union Local 1744 at gmail.com. Now, even I guess more urgently, there's one coming up this Friday, which is a very similar thing to, and here I can't find it, stand by. All right, tell you what, I'll find that in a second. We also want you to mark your calendars for the Optimus Golf Outing this year. It's going to be again at the St. Clair Shores Golf Club. It's the second annual scholarship golf outing. It's going to be on Friday, July 12th. Friday, July 12th. And there'll be some stuff going out on that. We're going to have a couple of celebrities that'll show up. We're not going to tell you who that is yet, but it's an 18-hole scramble with cart. 8 a.m. registration, 9 a.m. shotgun, and last year was a blast. Way more successful than anybody ever thought it would be, so pretty pumped up about that. So, before I get to, okay, here we go. One of our Lakeview students, Delaney, who is on a summer softball team here. Their team won the NSA state title this past fall, which earned them a spot in the World Series this summer. It's a week-long affair and super costly for the families. So you know what's going to happen. They have to do a fundraiser. The fundraiser they are doing, and I apologize for just finding this out this week, is going to be a derby for the Steelers softball team. It's going to be a night at the races fundraiser. It's this Friday, the 26th. The 26th. Again, there'll be 50-50 raffles. It's an open bar, buffet dinner, $55. You can come there, and like we did last year, you can name a horse, you can own a horse, you can bet on a horse. but all of this is a fundraiser. It's going to be at Barrister Gardens, 7 PM to 11 PM, and that's the one on Harper at 9:30. So anything we can do to help the Steelers get to the World Series would be greatly appreciated. If you can't make it, you can always make a donation. Either drop it off at Barrister Gardens, or I would imagine you get a hold of me, 586-808-3478, and we'll help get the money into the right place. Okay, last but not least, library. All right, so the Friends of the Library are hosting a half-off sale for the entire store tomorrow, Tuesday, January 23rd, from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m., half off everything. Also, you can join an expert from Macomb County Prosecutor's Office to learn how to protect yourself from being taken advantage of in situations like identity theft, telemarketing fraud, and caregiver fraud. All on Wednesday, January 31st at 2 p.m. No registration is required. Again, that's at the library. Teams of 4 will be able to compete in a friendly movie knowledge challenge. I guess that's kind of like trivia, right? On February 8th at 6:30 p.m., this event is open to participants ages 18 and older. Registration starts on January 25th and can be done in person or by phone at 586-771-9020. And in our library report, we're going to add a little bit of, just so you know, kind of like a really cool statistic. So we found out at our last meeting on Thursday of the library board that we had a total of 10,297 participants in the youth services programming for 2023. 10,297 kids. They visited the library, checked online for upcoming. So if you want to participate in that, check online or stop by for more of the upcoming events. I think that's great. All the stuff that we do up here for them, it's getting used, and probably more and more. So, Mayor, that's all I have. I know it's quite enough.
Thank you. Item 12, City Manager's Report.
So we've already went over the water bills. Do want to let all council members know that we are interviewing for our Assistant City Manager. First round of interviews is this week. We have 7 interviews set up. We plan to narrow that down to our top 3 to 4 and bring them in on purpose, or bring them in person. We are doing Zoom interviews for the first round.
All righty, thank you. Item 13 is audience participation, 5-minute time limit. Views and opinions expressed under audience participation are those of the individual citizen only, do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of the mayor, city council, administration of City of St. Clair Shores. Anyone like to speak? Yes, sir, come on up. We'll have you speak first, and then we'll have you sign in afterwards. And we just need your name and the city you reside in. Good evening.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Carl Holtz. I live in St. Clair Shores.
Yes, sir.
I have a question regarding the fire hydrant maintenance in the city. As far as who is responsible for that, how often are they actually checked or tested? And is there some place where you could go and look up when was the last time the fire hydrant on Jane was checked, or the fire hydrant, I'm only curious because I've got a friend who lives in St. Clair Shores that had a fire. And the fire hydrant that they went to, the first one didn't work. So they went to the one on the other side of his house. That one didn't work. They had to go to the block behind him to actually get water for the fire, which took about a half hour to 45 minutes from the time they arrived till they could actually figure out what they needed to do to get. And I can remember, I've lived in St. Clair Shores for 46 years. I can remember seeing them out there testing them, but to be honest, the last few years, I don't recall ever seeing anyone out checking any of the fire hydrants. I'm just concerned.
Sure.
Luckily, no one was hurt in this fire, but if it would happen that, there was small kids or something involved, or, I just curious. I don't know does the fire department take care of that now, or the water department?
Well, it's a good question, and I would ask you to direct to the city clerk, get your phone number, and we will get back to you on that, because there's a number of questions there. So you get 5 minutes, but we'll take that question, but we will get back to you, and then, matter of fact, we'll get back to everybody at the next city council meeting to answer that question, but we'll specifically get back to you. So if you don't mind signing in there, unless you have something else.
No.
And then give your number to the clerk, and we'll get back to you and that. So, and there might even be an individual here or two can talk to you after the meeting.
All right, thank you very much.
So, yep, thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? We'll go back to mayor's comments. I don't have any, so we'll need a motion to adjourn.
Oh, before we do that, I just have one more question.
Yes.
How are we doing on the Memorial Park bricks? Did we get that put back up yet?
Yes, we have.
And we're all set?
I believe we are all set, yes.
Okay.
Yep, we've saved them, we got some pictures, and we put it all back together.
Awesome.
It's recently, Mr. Frederick, done with, I would say, within the last couple of weeks, really, actually.
okay, good.
It was done, and matter of fact, as we talk about that, we're gonna have the same contractor. We are trying, I know I've been talking with Mr. Lent about getting the wall done, because that needs brickwork, actually at 10 Mile and Little Mac. You know, we had that accident there, which would be on the east side and the south side, correct? Yep. And so actually, we have that contractor in place. There's some insurance issues that we're trying to work through so we can get that done, but I just brought it up since it's the same contractor that we had hoped really to go from that project and right over there to get that project done.
That's great news.
Yep.
Great news. Thank
So,
you for
yep.
expedience on that.
Yeah, no problem. With that, we'll have a
Move to adjourn.
moved by Mr. Frederick, supported by Mr. Karen. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed. Good night.